What's the word, everybody? It is the season finale, episode 8 of the Wheel of Time. What's the phrase of the night? I'm going to say, as Uno would say, mother's milk in a cup. That was a lot. That was a lot.
Was a lot.
Wow. Wow. What's the word, everybody? I'm Amanda Sedai. This is Warder Bill. And I'm just having a lot of feelings. I am having a lot of feelings. So,
what chief among them?
Chief among them is, I think the word of the night is choices, right? Because there was a lot of ground to cover in episode 8. And I do think one thing they did right was a lot of streamlining. Consensus among fans, and at least with myself and the people I chat with, is the end of the Eye of the World was confusing anyway. So I know that it was one of the few of the Wheel of Time books you read. When you read the Eye of the World, did you get to the end and just kind of be like, wait, who are these people? What's happening? What's this chord? What's going on? Do you recall?
No, it was a little bit, I don't know, like kind of cerebral, like
yeah,
you know, and
yeah.
So it was confusing for me, and it's been years. I just remember it was mission accomplished, really. Like,
right, yeah, mission accomplished,
yeah.
mission accomplished.
So, but yeah, nothing, like, there were a lot of parts of the original book that stuck with me, and the end
wasn't one of them.
Yeah,
right. So, coming into episode 8, I had a few predictions. Namely, fewer Forsaken, that, you know, the Two Rivers gang would contribute more, because I remember them just kind of sitting around at the end of the book. And that it would be streamlined, because I remember thinking, I'm like, I don't think they can do it like this. So in some ways, I would say mission accomplished. I think that non-book fans probably understood the ending. And for me, it was a very Lord of the Rings ending, like the Fellowship is breaking up in a way.
Without any of the weight, I would say. Like, like, again,
okay.
This is where so again, there were a lot of nice moments for this, and I think a lot of ways it mostly worked, but that was an area where because they kept the characters mostly apart for the entire show.
Yeah.
And so them being apart and them splitting, it obviously comparing the split at the end of Fellowship is that's an impossible thing to match up with, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And in here, it was doomed from the outset. I think when they started to be like, okay, we're just gonna they knew each other, and we're gonna let them go their own way.
Well, I mean, so in Eye of the World, people do split up and come back together.
Yes, but they had way more time together. Like, this was, again, there's everything, just the issues did run throughout the show of just like too many things that they made a lot of cuts, they made a lot of streamlines, they made a lot of like merge of characters, and and that's all well and good, but I think that all of the work they did, the thing that was impacted the most was the relationships, and this is the thing I've harped on the most.
Yeah.
The interactions between the characters was hampered, and they paid the price for it here.
Sure.
I mean, you did you really feel a whole lot when Nynaeve and Egwene, that scene at the very end? They had.
I was busy picking things apart.
Okay, sure.
But no, I've always felt like Nynaeve and Egwene had closest. They were together for most of it, except for like a little tinker excursion. I do understand their bond, and I do think they care deeply about each other. I think the most confused character they have in the show, though, is Perrin. They really only half committed to the Wolf brother thing. I think that...
They're waiting for them to come back the whole time.
I was waiting. Yeah. I was waiting, okay, when are the wolves really going to be a thing?
Sure.
Even if it wasn't necessarily in the first book. And I think the main problem is they didn't do it with Elias. I think Elias really had to be the example of a man who talks to wolves, and these are my wolves, these are my friends. Hey, let me introduce you.
I don't think you need that. I think that would have been more noise. I think that it was pretty. He found his way to the wolves, and they had the exposition in the moment of like, oh, they're here and they're ripping people's throats out on my behalf.
On my behalf.
And then they alluded to it 2 or 3 more times in the preceding episodes,
right?
Or the episodes that followed. I think he was the biggest problem this episode because
Yeah.
the whole time was, what are we going to do? Sit around. That whole want to be a great motivational speech, and then but you still kind of sit around.
Right. So, I mean, we did have a moment of like, do I use the axe? But he didn't use the axe. He chose it, but he didn't use it.
Yeah, that was a huge disappointment.
Huge disappointment. I think that, like, you know, maybe he could have heard the wolves and decided, no, I'm not going to send them. Like, there should have been, I mean, that's his gimmick. That's his thing. Why didn't we see that? And you know, why didn't we see the leader, you know, the future Lord Perrin? Like, why didn't we... I don't think they know who he is yet. I don't think they've really
It's an
found...
easy solve, too. Like,
Yeah.
it could have... No, I mean, so... The way... Were I writing this, I would make it so that when he called the wolves and the white cloaks, that a lot of innocent people, maybe it's collect,
Sure.
so he couldn't control them. And so when he had the chance, maybe here, to be like, do I do it in his eyes, you know, but he starts to realize, like, these innocent people...
Collateral damage.
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah,
and so
that
I
would have been
can't do it.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, something.
But instead, they just dropped that thread and made him unimportant. Like, oh, you're Taverin. Well, guess what? He's a Taverin who's doing jack. Like, he's not doing anything. I think it's interesting how how they've sort of moved into book 2 stuff while in book 1.
Yeah, boring, but...
Well, no, definitely not. Like, Rand going solo. I think that because of their issues with Matt, you're not going to have, like, the Rand and Matt buddy journey with the Horn of Valir, because the Horn of Valir is now already taken by Fane. So, you know, when I was complaining about, like, oh my God, why would they call that Blood Calls Blood? Like, we're never going to have the Blood Calls Blood scene. It's never going to happen because Fane already has the horn. So yes, there's going to be like a hunt for Pad and Fane, but I think it's going to be much truncated, and I think Rand might go directly to the Stone of Tyr. I think they're honestly cutting...
At this point, I don't think it's a good use of effort, and you're going to frustrate yourself a lot. If you enjoy it, that's fine. But the speculation, we're rudderless. We're kind of, you know, it seems pretty whimsical at this point. And it can be a good ride. You know, it could be a fun ride. But I think if you're going to be like, well, that means that this and this, like, it's fun to speculate on that. But I think that this is where a lot of people have had their biggest qualms. Is that, like... Is
trying too hard to predict and then finding
that it's going to be different. I think when you start doing that kind of prediction, generally speaking, and maybe you will enjoy it, I think that you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And you need to say, like, there's a ride and I'm going for it, and you know what I mean? Like, it can be fun to speculate, but have you... I guess the Elida thing you were speculating on.
Okay, so I'm really excited to hear what you all think about this. Moiraine, when she was talking to Rand about the Aes Sedai who knew that Moiraine was going to be going places, who came to her room and beat her every night, we all know that's Elida. But I thought that she was going to be like, and Liandrin knew it, and give a tell that, like, they have merged the Elida and Liandrin plot lines. Mm-hmm. So do you think that they're still going to have Elida, or do you think that they'll reveal later on that Aes Sedai who beat her was Liandrin? So I think that was something that really kind of, like, caught my attention and kind of got me thinking and theorizing. But, like, no, I disagree with you. I fully plan on continuing to theorize, because that's what I did when the books were coming out. Like, my favorite thing, and, you know, I can link this if you want, is back in the day we had something called the Wheel of Time FAQ, and it was just this one long FAQ, early internet, where every single time the books were updated, all of the best, like, theorizers would contribute to the FAQ, and then, like, certain questions would have, like, a little green icon saying updated, and I would be like, oh my God, it's updated! And then I would go and I would read the theories, and I would, after every single book came out, that was, like, my ritual. It was like, okay, what are people saying? What's going on? Just like, you know, we all watch these videos right now, you know? And so, no, I'm not going to stop theorizing about where this is going and what it's going to do. To me, that's the fun of it.
I don't mean to be the party pooper. I'm just saying that you've been disappointed, and I'm just bracing you for more disappointment in that regard. Well, I mean, you know, don't take it the wrong way. I'm just saying that's not how it's going down, and that's why so many people are really upset about the show. Is that all of this stuff is kind of on a whim. A lot of the
I don't
story.
think that a lot of this was a whim. I think it was choices, and that's why I said, like, at the beginning of the show, this was about choices and streamlining.
Well, they're making bad choices then.
Okay.
I think that having wrapped up this season, I think that a lot of decisions, I don't envy them for the complexity of these choices, and I'm sure that there's a lot of stuff that they couldn't control, and a lot of stuff you have all these different interested parties, and you have contracts with certain actors who are like, I need this, and I gotta have this much of a role. I get it. These things are incredibly complex. If you worked on anything that's collaborative creatively, especially at this, if it's 10 million episode, there's going to be a lot of stakeholders. I just think that I think it's too complex for us to go in and say, like, this is what the story really is, because I think even at its heart, and I say this as someone who overall has enjoyed it, I think this episode was like, it didn't quite pull off the miracle that it needed to. But I think it was enough to be like, okay, cool. We resolved a lot of the, like, it didn't go full, like, okay, this is just casting itself into the sea. Like the last episode, I was thinking it was going to.
Yeah.
No?
It's funny. No, I just want to address, like, thank you all for so many views on episode 7, but man, we got flamed from all sides. The people who people who are loving the show are like, you guys are so mean, and the people who are much more purists are like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And it was like, I just thought it was interesting because our other episodes have been really positive and like low numbers of views, and then all of a sudden we put out something negative, and it was like, wow.
I think a lot of the engagement was generally coming from, I'm speaking generally here, but was coming from people who were generally negative on things.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was a lot of flaming. I think a lot of it was, I mean, some of it, again, generalizing.
We were told we had no empathy.
Well, okay, yes. Listen, it's the internet. There's always going to be a few comments that are like,
funny.
Whoa, easy,
Like, as soon as, like, we start to go a little bit negative, it's all like, oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But, right, so they had a lot that they had to pull off in this episode, and they resolved it neatly. That's, like, my compliment, is like, okay, that wasn't how it was in the books, but honestly, it was easier to understand than the book. It was easier to understand in the book. It was wrapped up more neatly.
Although I will say, so the one thing I will say about the book is that it was, like, again, one of the other biggest failures of this was just the sense of stakes, and it's just really unclear. Even though the scenario in the book is a lot less clear, the stakes for everyone, the investment, the weight of I'm going to lose my mind, whereas they kind of hint at it here and there, and mention it a few times. I'm just not feeling any of it. I'm not feeling any of the stakes,
Yeah, and I suppose that there wasn't really the glory either. I just remember just the goosebumps of when they open up the chest. There's the Horn of Valir, and then when they raise the dragon banner, like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. And we got a pretty sad, anticlimactic ending. So what I found interesting was they took what happened to Egwene during her accepted ceremony and made it Rand's dream for the future. So when Egwene walks through the Ter'angreal to become an accepted, she's faced with a life that she made with Rand. And they have this baby Joya, and when the way comes but once, which is just a line that gives me, again, the goosebumps. And she needs to leave Rand and the baby to become an Aes Sedai. Like, that was, like, gut-wrenching. I remember she fell out of the Ter'angreal just, like, sobbing, like, I had a baby, we were happy, like, how can you do this to me? And the accepted, the three-door Ter'angreal that they go to, the doorways, it's meant to challenge you, and it's meant to weed out the weak from, and it's meant to be like, well, if you want to be an Aes Sedai, like, you need to continue, you need to push. And the fact that they took Egwene's dream for herself and made it Rand's sort of Ishamael's hallucination, I guess. I thought that was really interesting, and it made sense. You think of the devil and temptation. And that's really what that was. It was the devil tempting you, just being like, you can have everything you want. You just have to say
so
yes
I mean,
to me.
that does, again, then we talk about the changes made along the way. That does somewhat justify that, like, okay, I guess he's back to trying to get together with Egwene again.
Right.
And it's like,
but they were like that.
No.
They were together in the books, just not as intensely.
Yeah, I mean, so that's why they were doing this. But my point here is, in the show, it felt pathetic, and I felt it was a detriment to Rand's character.
Yeah.
And again, so these are decisions, and I get it now, because I don't care who has the dream. And like that's the kind of stuff that just like that. Okay, that's a good change for the story, because now that said, I didn't feel like this idealized home life vision that he had was something that I was invested in or would really believe, because we didn't feel that along the way. It was this sort of rocky relationship that wasn't earned, and I get what they're trying to do, but it just I have no empathy. Well, I mean, did you feel it? Like,
I did, because
cast aside what you know about where things go.
No, that scene early on, I think it was in the first episode, was when Rand was sitting on the mountain looking at the two rivers, and Egwene says, like, what are you thinking about? And he said, I was thinking about the family I was hoping to raise here in the two rivers. Like, Rand wanted kids. Rand had said he wanted, in this show, not the books, he wanted nothing more than a simple life in the two rivers. And that's what that like Ishamael knew that. He showed him that. And I felt it. I believed it. I don't think that necessarily it was like the right way to go.
It could just be me being an idiot, just forgetting that. But yeah, I guess it didn't really. It's also a problem when you talk about, I mean, that's what he had, and it was sort of going to be a foregone thing. And I from a hero's journey perspective, that sort of rejecting the call, but to continue the thread of like I mean, I guess Frodo wanted to go back. He wanted the adventure, and he says, no, I don't want the adventure. And then he goes on the adventure. He's like, I don't want that. I want to go back. So I don't know, maybe, I guess it's kind of sad to still wind up at that. Like, I guess there's nothing pulling him back. And that's kind of where the show left off here, where it was, okay, you did the thing.
But now he's got to be alone. Like, he
right,
can't...
but that call there isn't, I mean, it doesn't quite... I appreciate the sacrifice there, but it's not a very good... it neither felt like a mission accomplished nor a on to the next challenge kind of thing. And so, I mean, right? I mean, well, let's take a step back. Ishamael, what would you think?
Not scary enough, not tempting enough. He was just kind of like a guy.
Yeah.
If he was more charismatic and almost had you being like, oh no, if he said that to me, I would probably take that offer. Like, I never got that far, but I also wasn't like, oh my God, he is going to crush me. First of all, did he like he stilled Moiraine? I mean, I didn't see her ageless. I didn't see her, revert to like a younger self. Is she just like massively shielded? I don't know if this is a question we can answer.
I think at this point, Loyal's not really dead, and it's just like everyone's gonna come back.
Well, I'm also a little bit annoyed. Like they reinforce so many times, like you can't heal death. You can't heal death. Nobody ever heals death, and in the books, nobody heals death. Like it's not like it's the kind of thing like you can't heal stilling. Like like no, like you can't heal death. Nynaeve looked pretty dead.
Yeah.
The one thing I did like about the linking scene is that they did foreshadow Lady Amalisa's weakness in the power. They talked about how she was sort of cast out of the tower. She had never been raised. I think she was just a novice or just oh no, she got the accepted. Wait, was she accepted? I don't remember.
This is super nerdy.
But bottom line is, no. Like, let me have my fun. They said that she was too weak to continue. And so when she linked up with everybody and felt like the sweetness of Saidar and like, in the books they talk about like, it's just ecstasy and you can't hang on to it too long. You will burn yourself out. I actually really kind of enjoyed that, oddly enough.
What, them burning out?
Yeah, because like it showed somebody who was so weak. She probably only had like a trickle of power before, what it was like to like truly feel the ecstasy of channeling Sidar.
That was pretty good.
And
Although, yes, that was kind of neat. I liked the sort of Galadriel moment she had there. You know,
Yeah.
Galadriel as the dark
Queen.
Yeah. Again, another thing with it, like, so Egwene suddenly is super healer woman, like she. I loved the scene where she did that weak ass channel,
Yeah.
and then suddenly she's just I don't know. I guess she had the 5G suddenly because of that connection. And speaking of 5G, hey, remember the time I said this was a sci-fi? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, who saw? I know
No,
that is
listen,
roundly going to be.
We all know that the Age of Legends was the future.
Yeah.
The series is not a sci-fi series.
Oh. Okay.
None of us would argue. Okay, your friends argued that the Age of Legends wasn't the future, but like it clearly was. Like we've addressed this. The Age of Legends is the future. Yeah, they had the flying car. Like it was the future, but it's that doesn't make it.
The Pottery Barn catalog home they had.
Well, that's not their home. That was Lews Theron's home, I guess. Not La Tripose is not his wife. It's not Ilyena. We never got Ilyena.
Sure.
The
point was that was an abode. Somebody lived there.
Yeah, Lews Theron.
Yeah. Okay. So Lews Theron's home was
very Pottery Barn. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and what was there? I mean, I like the way that they mirrored that with Egwene and Rand later on. But was there? Am I stupid? What was the purpose of that? Why do we show that? Is that just fan service? I know I'm gonna get flamed for that, but
the cold open was meant to show who the who the last dragon was. Give him a face, give him a name. So that at the end, when Rand was remembering where he was, which I don't know where that was.
It's pointless. Like that was a pointless scene. It showed sci-fi, but it's okay. There's a guy.
I think they wanted to show that Lews Theron was measured, thoughtful. Not this horrific kinslayer. And I think that it wanted to show us what the madness, just how terrible the madness can be. Because here we saw he was diplomatic, smart, passionate about what
but
he
if
was
you're not
going
to go anywhere with that, what's the purpose of it? Just slow down what you had a lot to get to in this episode. And again, I think we got to a decent amount of it, but not anyway.
Well, I think the conversation wasn't well written with La Tripose. I think it was very exposition-y. I think that they could have had a really interesting snippet.
Yeah.
I also wasn't crazy about just seeing subtitles because the Old Tongue, it didn't sound like the way I pictured the Old Tongue, and it was distracting for me. I kind of wish that they were just speaking
English
regularly.
Why?
Yeah.
No way. To me that really sells the time difference, you know?
I loved his outfit.
Yeah,
I thought Lews Theron was very sharp.
Okay,
I am all in favor of this Lews Theron.
The woman, I was not impressed with her outfit.
No, it was kind of weird, like hammer pants.
Yeah.
It's good to know that those come back in a couple thousand years.
Everything's cyclical. It's a wheel.
Speaking of which, it's not the last battle. It's the first.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so the battles before...
If there are no beginnings or endings, is there really even a last battle? Right?
So the other battles were negative battles, I'm guessing, right? Programmer counting.
So were there any moments that stood out to? Well, I mean, I've got one thing that I can't wait to talk about. But was there anything that stood out to you as this was great?
Well, I'm not done with. Okay, sure. I think the Ishamael thing is pretty important because I think it speaks to. Okay, so watching that scene and in the whole of the blight, I like when they found the body and the story and then the dream. Mm-hmm. And his introduction, even though it was a little uneven effects wise, mm-hmm. and the mask looked a little goofy, but when he shot it and started swallowing up, I felt like, oh, this is gonna
was cool.
This is gonna be a ride.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that they immediately went to his human face, but I just kept being like, okay, when's it gonna change? When's something gonna happen? So I like being confronted with unexpected and being in uncharted water like that. Mm-hmm. But as you said earlier, that he wasn't as charismatic as he could have been.
I just think he was like middle of the road.
Yeah.
Either be charming or be scary. Make an impression on me. Other than his look, he was very forgettable. Like, the performance was forgettable, but like the look, like, oh, I do think that he looked like how I pictured Ishamael. Yeah. Elan Tedrani something.
Yeah. But the whole of the blight did make me realize that for most of the show, and I've seen some people talk about, including Luke and Eric and some friends, just about how
shout out
how tight some of the sets feel, and I kind of like that. I like the intimacy of it, and I think a lot of that is done for the sake of budget. But most of the conversations in the dialogue are done on pretty much shot reverse shot, close-up wise. Mm-hmm. And the sense of scale, it's gorgeous scenery, right? And I understand that sometimes we move from the wilderness stuff is great. Mm-hmm. We've moved really far away from the wilderness stuff. There's a couple shots here and there.
I mean, but Fal Dara, like, that was expansive.
That was all very table here. That stuff felt very fake and set. Like the skyline was, I think, some of the worst in the history of the show. Like, okay. It was very fake, and the lighting was very fake, and a lot of the lighting in this episode in particular gave it a very surreal, not in a good way, a very surreal feel. And so I think that it's a real problem with the direction here, and I don't know how much of this is to compensate for budget, but like, we got to pull the shots because you've never seen the characters together. And I'm complaining, one of the biggest one of the biggest problems with the show is the character interactions, and it's all like close up, close up, close up, close up, close up, close up. And I don't get, so that scene with Moiraine and Ren and the Blights, I can imagine where they'd be like, this is supposed to feel claustrophobic, but that carried into the dream, and then it carried into whatever that was. What's that scenery that they were fighting? Is that the Eye? I mean, like.
So I don't think there was an Eye of the World, which is
weird.
A failing, I suppose. Maybe the Eye of the World is just Uno's single eye. I love Uno. I wish there was more Uno. He just had a little bit of swearing, a little bit. Yeah, we need more Uno.
It's another example of like, why are we even bothering with these characters?
Because he'll play a bigger part later. Like, they're just introducing.
Wasn't he dead?
No, Uno's not dead. No.
The guy who looked like Blade from He-Man?
He's not dead. And neither is Loyal.
Okay, I buy that. But so you're telling me that Nynaeve, Loyal, Blade, presumably his assistant.
It's Uno! He's got one eye. It's very easy to remember. Uno.
Oh, Blade, whatever. He's Blade from He-Man.
Okay. Discuss.
Props to you if you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
You can't. There's only sometimes you can pull the not dead. You can't wipe the entire cast and then have them come back.
What the hell was Matt doing?
I was intrigued. Bias for Matt aside is like, because she's saying, I want to watch it again, but she's saying, they may turn to darkness in the show and him, and I'm like, yeah,
and he's in Tar-Valon, like,
Anakin, go burn down the tower, go slaughter some younglings.
No,
yes. Can you imagine?
They're gonna have such a hard time pulling back.
Quick aside, okay? Can I spoiler for the Obi-Wan show?
I mean, I guess
they are talking. They're reshooting the youngling scene. Yeah. This is going to be a whole thing.
What do you mean? Yeah. Like, to see intimate details of it?
So, okay. I mean, I can go a little further. Just again, give me 30 seconds. Grogu, maybe with the younglings, and witnessing Anakin slaughter the younglings.
We need a new show.
I know.
I forgot my train of thought that was Wheel of Time related.
I'm so sorry, but this is that. I mean, if you see him doing the march into the the Jedi HQ, just like Anakin.
Slaughtering novices. Matt would slaughter some novices.
If you're gonna make a
mean.
change in season 2, if you're gonna take one liberty.
But here's what I'm saying: if they kept Barney Harris, which they did not, go for it. Go all the way dark Matt. They cast the most fresh-faced young lad as Matt.
You never know how they're gonna.
I don't know how he's gonna look evil.
Yeah.
He's like the most fresh-faced, like set the badger on the lawn Matt. It's very like OG Matt, not dark Matt. So that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Donald Flynn. He's got big shoes to fill.
Sorry. At least one of the many comments was like, "You guys should write up some notes before and stop just rambling."
I mean, we could, but we just like to have fresh experiences. Like, we literally just watched it, and I like extemporaneous.
You're the one that's got the structured brain, so I should stop interrupting and talking.
I did forget a number of the things I was going to say. But like I said, highlights from this.
Oh,
what were some? So you felt like, in a way, Ishamael was a highlight?
I'm not sure there. I think the way it was directed was weird, and I think it's kind of on the fence. Mm-hmm. I give him credit for doing something that's unexpected. Mm-hmm. As I've always said, the best villains are the ones you can be in the room with. But he didn't show that little bit of dark side where you're negotiating and the mask comes off slightly and you're like, right. Oh, okay, whoa.
Right,
whoa.
like I didn't buy him as like one of the 13 most powerful evil Aes Sedai of all time. Like he's a dude.
Well, I said I like that. Forget about the illusion. Forget about being with Egwene and that whole thing. I like that. I didn't. Part of me was like, okay, well, yeah, I could see this working out okay for me. No, seriously, yeah. and he seems like a reasonable guy,
right?
And so
Ishamael, reasonable guy.
Yeah. So is that a failing or a success? I don't know. I think it's a failing in that, again, we haven't echoed the thread enough on the show. Mm-hmm. It may be a success by accident. Maybe it failed upward, where they were like, hey, we're here, and this guy's kind of making some good points. But it's because you're not like, wait a minute, no, you're not, so.
Well, what I also want to know, like, are the seals just huge now? Like, were they sitting on the seals and she was like, Quendiar, and Lan was like, oh no. Like, was that...
Is that a real name?
Sorry,
what? Okay,
sorry. Was the giant tile in the floor, like, was that one of the 7 seals? Also, like, you can't just carry those in your bag. It's huge. Are they different sizes? Are there teeny tiny ones? Are there medium ones?
So we saw, what, 3 or 4 Murderall.
They don't even say it in the show. They just say a fade.
Well, it's probably because... Yeah.
They're like, really? You call it a murder all? Really?
But that's it for the Dark One's powers? You saw a few Dark Friends? Like... Nothing else? We didn't see any... what are the baddie guys
there were
again?
supposed to be 3 Forsaken at the Eye. So.
Who are the baddie guys again?
Bad guys.
Batty.
Dragcar. Did not see any Dragcar. No Gray Men. I think those come later, though. That's Green Man. He was also not in this. No Green Man. No Somesta. No Eye of the World. Like, there was no Eye of the World in Eye of the World. I'm not sure I'm over that.
Yeah, well, you got all summer to figure this out.
I got plenty of time to think on that.
Actually, when is season 2?
So, rumor has it that it's going to be late spring.
Oh.
Which I'll take.
The
new spring even. Mm-hmm. Wow. That was terribly creepy. Yeah. I'm going to go to my highlight.
Yes.
The Seanchan have arrived. So, I have so been...
Goofy.
Why? They're terrifying
so
looking.
Like everything, the goofy.
I was scared of them. I was definitely like, oh no. They are way more intimidating than I expected.
Although
they don't look the way I expected. So with the Seanchan,
tattooed faces
you always
cool.
see...
The one with the tattooed faces was very cool.
Yeah. So what you see in the books are lots of black lacquer, a lot of gold, a lot of cool tones, lots of grays. So I pictured the Seanchan almost being like very borderline futuristic looking. Whereas this interpretation of the Seanchan to me looked very almost like tribal.
Yes.
Like Maori, I think that they may have taken some pages out of like Maori lore with like like the lower face tattoos and some of the shapes. And I felt like the Seanchan had like heavy like Asian aesthetic in a lot of like what they wore and how they were dressed and just the in like
What did that
the
little
lacquered
girl do?
fingernails and what was it?
What did that little girl do?
I know she got their wrath. She got a big old wave.
Stealing all them clams.
She's just taking all the Seanchan
Tsunami
clams.
right at you.
Yeah. But no, I mean you could clearly see like
clams.
the Damani were
Terrible.
I didn't think they were terrible at all. I think that was the
pun.
highlight.
I just said Sean clams.
Sean clams, no.
Sean
No,
Shan.
I'm not gonna go there.
Uh,
I was excited, and I think that it set it up where people are going to be excited. They're a force to be reckoned with, and I think that if Damani can be terrifying, and the idea of leashing women who can channel is terrifying, and so I think that their numbers were huge. I think that it's going to look really cool, and so that's something I'm looking forward to.
I mean, it does echo one of my problems with the book and why I kind of like, all right, well, you figure your stuff out and eventually I'll finish it when you actually finish the series. It's just like you don't need so many of the same types of threats. It's just kind of like,
who are the Seanchan like?
well, no, just so many. There are so many threats to your ability to channel that it's just like, just pick one. That's, you don't need to keep like, oh, but these guys are really great warriors, and these guys are really great warriors, and these guys are really good at stopping you from channeling, and these guys are really good. And it's just like, it's not helping the story. Like you can't keep telling the same, communicating the same ideas over and over again. You're just not respecting my time.
I don't think I just disagree. So yes, you have many different factions of people, but they're all so different. Like the Aiel are hardened warriors from living in the desert.
Totally get it.
The people, yeah,
I understand that they're different, but I'm just saying, functionally, from a story perspective.
Yeah, from a story perspective, conquering the world and like dealing with all that stuff is complex, and you have lots of different factors and different factions. Don't you think? I mean, like, this is a savior narrative. Don't you think every, different society and different religion has a different imagining of how they're gonna win in the very end, right?
So I just think that not to belabor the usual comparison, but I think Sauron has a bunch of forces, but they're all serving the same thing, and they all have the same interest.
Right. This is much more human than that. Like in Lord of the Rings,
Maybe.
Gondor doesn't need a king. They're kind of like slightly independent. Then you've got like Theoden, who's like kind of under the impression it's politics, and Jordan does politics on a global scale by pulling in these other armies, and like, don't get me started on the last battle in Shara.
Yeah,
but that was too much.
I think the difference here is that, and I get what you're saying. I think I agree. However, I think in Lord of the Rings, most of the sort of supplemental or sort of like duplicative or whatever forces, the who are the guys who ride the elephants?
The Haradrim?
Yeah, sure. So they're called in by Sauron and that whole thing, but they're really just different aspects of the same hurdles. Whereas in Jordan, so much of it are just distractions. I mean, like, we're going to go over here, forget about that dark one thing. Well, now we're going to talk about the politics of this thing, and it's just like they're all kind of distractions.
So it's a difference of scope. Lord of the Rings is a trilogy. Wheel of Time is 14 books.
But I know that. But I'm saying my issue comes from a place of it not respect. And you enjoy it. That's great. The reason I stopped was because it didn't respect my time. Now, it's funny because the show is the opposite problem, where they're... Yeah, exactly. And well, it's also the choices and that kind of thing, the choices they're making about what to cut and what to change.
Yeah.
But especially for when did was it 1904? When did Lord of the Rings come out? 40. Anyway, you think about how tight that is comparatively. And I get it, so that's fine. People love that. And fantasy, like people like verbose. I get it. I'm pointing it out just from a story
Necessarily
perspective.
verbose. It's complicated. It's complex. So, I was just watching a video of Brandon Sanderson give a lecture on plot, and he was talking about promise, payoff, which is usually all you ever hear about people talking with craft, like the promise of the premise. The difference that Sanderson adds is progress. That's the third P, and that's the most important P.
That's great.
So what you feel is, okay, I'm not at the promise of the premise, but I see the progress toward it, and I feel satisfied.
So that caveat there perfectly summarizes what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Again, distractions.
Okay.
So I get, like, I'm not questioning the world building or that that stuff is good, but it just feels needless. And I come from a film background where it's like, I'm
a page a minute. It's tight. Sure.
Yeah, and so it just feels like it's great that you can. It's a whole different skill set to world build on that level, and I'm not trying to diminish that. But for me, it's just like, okay, let's move this along.
Right. Well, so this episode for me was a mixed bag. Yeah, you should watch his lecture. It's really good. I love Brandon Sanderson, and I love the Stormlight Archive, and who knows, maybe I'll do some episodes on it. But I feel like that's one of the things that propels his books forward, where other fantasies have a slog. And I did do a video about the Wheel of Time slog, and we'll be putting that up soon. And I have a theory about why the slog happened. But yeah, this episode was a mixed bag for me. I think that it's definitely going to require another viewing. Now that I have this perspective and I can look at this season 1 as a body of work and not ask, where's this going? Why are they doing this? Blah, blah, blah. I want to watch it all together and be like, okay, did that work or not? You know?
Yeah.
And right now I feel like I don't necessarily have that perspective because I've got what happened in the books, and I feel like I need some more perspective.
So, that's great. I'd love to watch it again for sure. With all the changes, do you feel like it captured the spirit and all the liberties they took? Do you feel like it effectively captured the spirit of the book, given the length? When you talk about, okay, can you really do 8 hours? Can you do Wheel of Time? Sorry, Eye of the World in 8 hours, and get across what you need to?
Yes, but it did not capture the wonder. So my big complaint about the Harry Potter movies, he doesn't like Harry Potter at all. I enjoyed the books. I hated the movies. And I feel like what the books had that never made it to the screen was the charm. There was a very warm charm that really drew you into the books, that the movies felt cold and flat. And even though it had most of the same plot points, it did not capture the charm. What did it for me for Wheel of Time is just like the wonder and the immersion in that world and just wanting to live it. Like I just didn't get that, oh my God, I want to be an Aes Sedai out of the show. Yeah.
Or you certainly didn't want to be Rand.
Yeah, I mean, poor Rand, my poor baby.
No.
Yeah.
No offense to the actor. He did. I think he.
Oh, he did a great job. He did a great job. I liked Yosha.
Not much to work with there.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, between the lack of any sort of, I mean, it's like, well, don't channel. We get that. We got that part. But we didn't really get to see him. What that was like, that little taste.
Yeah.
I mean, he held out that green thing. Oh, I guess.
Well,
it was
also, I have to say now that, like, in retrospect, Moiraine spent 20 years of his life searching for the Dragon Reborn so he could make it to the last battle, and she just lets him go after the first battle. And
but it wasn't like, yeah, okay, so yeah.
So that was kind of like a meh Rain. She was just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I almost wish he'd, like, if you're going to take a liberty, I wish he had, like, had a touch. She had lost her powers, and she started to see him go, and so she let him go out of fear. And, like, I'm not going to be able to stop him right now. I have to regroup.
But basically, like, her quest she's just like, oh, well.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
know that she lets him go for a while in the books, but the context is different. It's
Yeah,
it's just not
she
the
wound
same.
up kind of being a bit of a mess here, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if Moiraine, like, one of the things that was great about Moiraine is that her motivation was clear. Find the dragon, get him to the last battle intact, right?
Profit.
And what was that?
Number 3, profit.
Profit?
Yeah.
Profit off of it?
It's South Park joke.
Oh, okay. But, you know, I just feel like that didn't happen. And so, I mean, in book 2, like I said, like, Rand does eventually go his own way, especially in book 3. But this just sort of seemed like a mea culpa. I don't know.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, they put like, she was what they invested the most into. And on most every level, I don't think it worked. Like, the thing with Lan didn't work, and he just showed up, and, like, the training that he got to go and get her tell and all this stuff that's just like, ugh, okay, fine, but, like, you better pay it off, and they get together. And I like that moment where he saw his city.
Oh,
Kind of.
Malkier. Oh,
Just
man.
hold it for a little bit longer, like it wasn't clear. And then the little awkward. You thought the little breakup moment that he had with Nynaeve worked?
Because it's what in the books. It's the line that everybody fell in love with Lan. Like, I'll hate the man you choose because he's not me, and, you know, like, just
Sure, but this is what I mean about unearned, because it came out of nowhere based on the show.
come out of nowhere.
On the show, it was out of nowhere. You can make the case for where it was properly set up and it wasn't. So
Well, we're gonna do a rewatch, so
yeah. So, and then they're like, okay, I guess it wasn't just a one night stand, and so now they're breaking up and they're
It wasn't-
heartbroken about it or whatever.
so you were busy yammering during it, and I was like, "Shut up! This is my moment."
I
But
said one thing.
you were talking, and I couldn't properly focus.
Anywho,
But no, like they
did that seem
in Eye
work?
of the World.
Did that work for you?
You didn't have him next to you, so did it work?
I literally said, like, what? I said. Okay.
I think I might need to watch season 2 like in an isolation booth.
Listen. I told you could watch this on your own. And
No,
and,
it's funny. It's funny.
I didn't want to poison it.
No, I was actually
And
really
I
glad
haven't,
you
because
were there.
I have enjoyed it, but, you know, a bit of off the rails. Kind of got one wheel back on the rail, I think.
Yeah, I think that it was a good enough ending to season 1 that people will still be excited for season 2. I don't think it blew anybody's minds.
Yeah.
Although I was completely wrong about last week. A lot of people said episode 7 was their absolute favorite, and I couldn't find anything redeeming about it except for the cold open, which he didn't even like. So, I mean, we may be completely... I mean, I guess what's nice about these videos is we make it as soon as we watch it, so we don't get influenced by anybody. This is just like raw reaction. But I think it ended well enough that we'll be psyched for season 2. But it didn't none of it excited me.
I think that there are going to be a lot of people who have a lot of issues with... I don't think anyone's going to be concerned about loyal. I'm still going to say loyal. They're going to be concerned about loyal. But I think that, Perrin is going to be a disappointment for people. I think the Nynaeve Egwene thing is probably going to be a little bit awkward.
No, I think people are just going to argue, like, you can't heal death.
Yeah, well, that's been a big part of the problem is for people is that it's been death of a thousand cuts. You can take some liberties, and most people will be like, and then they'll move on. But it's just like, well, liberty. Free advertising there. You're welcome.
Sponsors. What's up with Min in the wagon? Like, Min was just like, peace out, everybody.
So yeah, she saw people dying.
Yeah, so I guess she was just afraid.
And she did
and
see,
left.
actually, nice little touch. She saw Nynaeve die there. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, she
saw her
that.
fall down, and so that was nice. Nice little foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I kind of wrote it off as like, okay, whatever, you're seeing things. But I saw, you see Nynaeve, it's probably her dying in like 20 episodes, whatever. So, yeah, nice little touch.
Yeah.
Still no britches.
It's the britches that'll get you. No, apparently people said that she didn't wear the tight britches at this point. I just think men, and I think britches. That's
you don't
just me.
You don't have the britch timeline.
I don't. I did not actually lay out when does she start to change her style?
Not a
when
fan.
When do the britches
What
happen?
kind of fan does not know? What color are her britches?
Oh, sometimes she's in Dumai's Wells she's wearing rose colored britches. I remember that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I mentioned the blight here. For me, what really worked again, it kind of I'm not sure about when mask came off and that whole thing, but the dream sequence with the little moss and there's a lot of nice little touches when they saw that mushroom covered. So there's a lot of nice stuff there, and that's why we're again slow down and pull back.
With the blight, it's supposed to be just diseased, and I did get when you saw the corpse, you were like, yeah. And when the stuff was creeping on Rand, and I mean, oh my god, when he stabs through Moiraine, I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah. That was incredibly graphic, but at the same time, the way they angled it, it wasn't that bad, because she had open mouth, so you could just see that. But so you don't actually see. Yeah, it was an odd, nice, gory touch. I don't like gore, but it was a nice little.
Well, it makes me wish that there were more, and I think we complained about this before. I wish that there was more Baalzamon dreams because you get more about the Dark One, you get more about the characters and what they want. If it were me, there would be one dream per episode that sort of leaves sort of a trail of breadcrumbs.
Sure, you could really echo characters' wants and where they are, and those little check-ins.
Hold on. Suan was the Dark Ones at the Eye of the World. You have to go. So I guess that place was the Eye of the World, whatever that may mean to them.
Yeah. I still can't get over the sci-fi thing. Wait till you hear more of my expertly crafted theory.
5G.
Straight
5G.
up.
All right. Well, I feel like I have said pretty much my thoughts on this episode, and I still need to marinate. But that's that.
So overall, episode and season, give me some rankings. How many heron marked swords would you give this?
This episode I would give 6 heron marked swords out of 10. What about
This
you?
episode?
Yeah.
So I'd probably say 6 or 7, but I could go up or down based on when I just can't wrap my head around the confrontation with the Dark One,
My thing is I think that now that this is done, they need to look at those directors and the directors of 4, 5, and 6, episodes 4, 5, and 6. Please keep them on, and the directors of episodes 1, 7, and I'm going to say 8, ditch them, because I just can't get over how good.
I don't know that you could
4, 5, and 6 were comparatively.
But I don't know if you could put that squarely on the table. Squarely on the director. Directors can change the script.
They felt completely different. They had different feels.
Yes, but you
different
can't.
Pacing.
No, but you can't discount the amount of content you have to get through, and a lot of it is the decisions being made in the story room.
Sure.
So it's tough because I agree, and I definitely felt that.
Listen, they may have had a completely different plan for 7 and 8, and once they didn't have Barney, they had to be like, well, how do we do this without Matt?
Changes aside, this should have been 12 episodes.
Oh my god, yes.
At the very least 10. It needed more downtime. It needed more just journeying. It needed more Rand with sword fighting. It needed more
Rand and Lan training.
It needed more character bonding. It needed more building up the mythos. Rand
and Lan training is book 2, I believe. So, but yeah, they needed more. We need more.
There was sword training.
I'm remembering some from book 2, but it's been a while since I read book 1.
I remember shortly after Winter Night, he's remembering a lot of his training and whatnot. So all we know about Rand at this point is he's a bumpkin who's like in a bumpkin town, but he's even more bumpkin than the bumpkins in the bumpkin town. Bumpkin.
Many layered bumpkin.
Yeah, and he's adopted and wool-headed. Did they work that line in right?
I don't think they did.
God, you goddamn fools. Jeffrey, let's fix this.
I mean, I don't think Lord Jeffrey can say. I think it's more Rafe.
No, this is Jeffrey. He's accountable.
Okay.
It's his baby. Just like when a package doesn't show up on time, it falls squarely on Jeff.
Okay. I'm sad we never got any of the Wheel of Time boxes. Did any of you get the Wheel of Time Amazon boxes? I ordered 1 million Christmas gifts and got 0 Wheel of Time boxes. Very sad. Very disappointing.
Really?
Yeah, like people were getting awesome like boxes.
You got a captive audience, right? Everyone who is ordering there. Were there like pamphlets inside?
No, but it was like cool, like Moiraine on the box.
No. What I'm asking is,
it would have been funny if it was Rand on the box, because Rand in the box. Everyone, yuck, yuck. All right, joke. Continue.
What later?
He doesn't know yet. Yeah, it's the ultimate Rand joke.
Yeah, so it's something to do with trying to whatever. Okay, sure, whatever. You know how this goes. This is another red wedding situation.
Rand in a box.
Yeah, so.
All right. What's in the box? It's Rand. Anyway, happy holidays. We're going to keep creating Wheel of Time related videos, even though the show is over. We've got lots of theories.
Season's over. So yeah, I think probably
the show's over.
Show's over.
Yeah.
Actually, I just saw yesterday again that they're just streaming like crazy. It's
yeah, it's like in the billions now, which is awesome. There's like 1.3 billion streams
of the show?
Yeah.
No. Come on, really?
Yeah. It was the most streamed show in the world. I think this week or last week. I don't know. It keeps showing up on Instagram.
That's insane.
And if you're on Instagram, I'm at What's the Word Podcast if you want to check it out, give a follow. I don't know, maybe.
Feedback's welcome.
Yes, feedback is welcome. Comments are welcome. I swear we have empathy. We want to know how you felt about this season as a whole. How do you feel like it ended? And any other inaccuracies you love to point out.
No, I like to hear it. Like, listen, I said from the get-go, my stuff is stale. I haven't finished the series. I'm early on. I'm probably going to revisit as we go through the TV series. I'll probably like read up ahead.
Yeah, I think that's
not
a good
far
idea.
ahead.
Yeah.
And because I've enjoyed it, and it's definitely for me. I know there's a lot of criticism the show is getting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is warranted in a lot of ways, and I understand the frustration because I've seen, like I said, I've seen a lot of my favorite properties become movies and shows and that kind of thing, and hasn't always met my expectations. And I see that they've made some big changes, and for whatever reason, I've been able to separate and be, I guess it's probably because I don't have the same attachment as a lot of these people. What
people?
Well, big fans, like true
Yeah.
fans.
You mean
yeah,
having this ring for 20 something years?
but it's interesting. You've been very accepting of a lot of these changes. You question them, you point them out, but and I think that's again, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to enjoy things, but I think it's good to be able to say like, that's different, I don't agree with it, but it's not gonna necessarily get in the way. And it's I get the Rand thing, like this doesn't really feel like Rand, and part of I think the biggest issue there is he just doesn't have the screen time, and he's kind of been sidelined. But I mean, what's your secret
of staying like chill?
Well,
staying
I don't know if
optimistic?
it's chill, like no, like yeah, I guess
The first
staying
season of
optimistic.
anything isn't good. Let's be honest. Oh my God, Buffy was like our all-time favorite show. Season 1 is unbearable. They're figuring out who these people are. They're figuring out their form. Season 1 of Game of Thrones, it was okay. I watched it because I read the books.
It's very
like-
you should go. Have you watched the first episode, the pilot?
No, is it brutal?
It's so the way it's written and the way it's executed is good, but it's so budget.
Right. So I'm okay with it because these characters live in my head and in my heart, and I know what happens, how it ends, and being able to see it visualized on the screen in whatever manner, it's pretty good. Like, I'll take it. I've waited so long for this. Yeah. I'm not gonna, also, like, I'm in my 40s. Like, I'm excited about this, but it's not, like, I've already made my impressions. Like, the Wheel of Time has already made its impressions on me that are indelible. If this isn't great, maybe I'll just turn it off. But so far, I'm enjoying seeing my friends that lived in my head on the screen. And they're doing different things. And they're keeping me on my toes because I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, so that's
exciting to me.
That's interesting. I think that might be it. Because, like I said, I don't know. Again, I think it's just that I'm not a true fan. Because I get frustrated with stuff. And I bounced off Star Wars, remember? Like, it wasn't.
Remember. We can't even talk about Star Wars.
No, that's not true. Because I finally, after Mando, I was like, okay, it hurt enough, and I got tired of hearing. And like, I started to see signs that was like, okay, they're clearly going back to the heart of what Star Wars is, and that's the big part of the frustration, is that people feel like the heart isn't there of this, and I don't know if we're being distracted by a lot of the positive, like the scenery and the fact that we're seeing it on screen for finally, and there's a lot of good here. I think objectively there's a lot of good, and I genuinely have enjoyed it, despite a lot of like eye rolling and a lot of like liberties that I've disagreed with. But it's an interesting study to see where, and again, culturally, you see so much of this now, where people are like, that's not the thing. And I get it because I've been there, and I, like I said, totally bounced off Star Wars for about 2-3 years. Yeah, I don't know what it is. What is it? I really want to think up till season 2 why this was okay for me, and it's probably, like I said, the fan thing. But you're an interesting case.
Well, it's new Wheel of Time content in a way, because the books have ended. Brandon has said, I'm not writing more Wheel of Time. It's not my series to write. And I'm glad, because Stormlight Archive is like a gift. It is wonderful. But it's me being surprised again. It's me being like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to find out what happens, because I don't know. Yeah. And it doesn't matter how many times you do rereads. Like, it's gold having something new and different to look like. Seeing Luce Theron tonight, like, wow, oh my gosh, it's Luce Theron and he's talking to Latropose. That's so cool. Yeah. And yeah, like, the content of their conversation was kind of like, it couldn't have been written by an AI, but it
probably was.
Like, there's still joy in something new. So that's what's kept me on board. But of course, my writer's ear is catching a lot of things that, like, oh, I wouldn't do that. Like, oh, I would change that. Oh, these motivations are brutal. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, but it's a bag that I'm ready to dig into in season 2. So that's how I'm feeling.
That new bit is actually, that's a good point. Yeah. I'm with you on that, because I remember Eye of the World most distinctly, and I was sad to see some of the parts that I loved not there. But yeah, it was nice. I kept saying it was a ride, and it was a ride. Yeah. And just not knowing what's next, it's a good thing.
All right, everybody. Love to hear what you have to say. What's the word, everybody? Good night.